Welcome to the Bureau of Citizen Detectives, the officially unofficial podcast for the Yellowjackets Showtime show. Hey, I'm Jim.
And I'm A.Ron.
And today we're talking season 2, episode 4, Old Wounds. A.Ron, I don't know about you, but I enjoyed this episode. There are some twists, there are some turns, there are some maybe intellectually offensive things, but come on, it's Yellowjackets, right? Let's talk about it. How'd you feel about this episode?
I really like this episode. I'm curious what you're talking about, the intellectual affronts. There's a test. There's a scientific test administered in this episode. I don't see any problems with it.
Okay.
But I liked it. I really, long-time Bald Move listeners will know that I'm a natural born shipper. And I can't, I mean, clearly Walter's up to no good. This is going to complicate things, but I really want him and Misty to get together. Elijah Woods.
All right. Yeah.
Elijah Woods and Christina Ricci are just really cute together. And that side-by-side montage of them doing their just insane check-in routine, the black lights, the checking for the listening devices, the whatever, and then them, juxtaposed on their beds. They even sleep on complementary sides of the bed, Jim. Mm-hmm. I got to see it happen. I got to see some bed and breakfast boning. What about you?
Oh, specifically on the Walter Misty thing? I love it.
No, the whole episode
okay.
is open floor for debate at this point.
The intellectual hurdle that I had to jump over was the stuff with Javi. Javi returning at the end of this episode. You got to imagine there's probably some supernatural foul play here. Something kept him alive, not just like, oh, I found a cave and I huddled up next to a sleeping mama bear and I ate off the fat of the land. I don't know if that's a thing, but we'll see what they do. I really love like the look that he gives his brother when he gets back, because there's something there that isn't sitting right with him, and I don't know if it's like a weird feeling he's got, if he's seeing like, hey, these people have changed. I wonder what could have changed about them. So I'm amazed. I'm super excited to learn more about that.
I'm amazed at how freely you're swinging to the supernatural branch here. I mean, sure, it's hard to understand how he would survive under the conditions he has, but let's hear him out. He hasn't even said anything.
Sure.
There might be a perfectly logical explanation. It is interesting how they're doing this kind of like Jack versus Locke situation. You've got Nat is the Jack. You've got two dueling Locks, possibly one evil, possibly one good in the form of Ty.
I couldn't handle one Lock.
I know.
Lost.
In the form of Ty and Lottie. And then Jim, the cold, icy hand that gripped my heart when Lottie stumbled upon a hatch that opened into a perfectly furnished industrial tunnel, and I'm just like, what in the name of Lost am I seeing here? Is this a thing? And then when it became like a strip mall with all of her friends, including the dead ones there, I'm like, oh, okay, I see what's happening now. But boy, I feel like a lot of these homages are intentional. It's like this obviously is one part gender bent Lord of the Flies, Lady of the Flies, and 2 parts gender bent Lost, it seems like. Well, I guess not gender bent, exclusively feminine Lost.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely Lost allusions to be made here, and I think, how could you not, with this group of people lost in the wilderness, stranded, and yeah, the seemingly supernatural happening around them. I don't know, man. I'm excited to learn more. I'm excited to see more of the Misty and Walter roadshow. I really want to know what's going to happen when they meet up around this cult, because like I've seen some theories out there as to what's going on like overall in the show.
Yeah,
and I think they're interesting and fairly compelling, especially after some of the things we see in this episode. But I'm hoping we could talk more about those when we kind of get to the scenes where it's relevant.
Yeah, sure. Are we ready to get into the recap then?
There's one more thing I want to bring up that could be big. it's the very end of this episode where Ty goes out to unnamed small town west of where she lives and finds Van. Now, what I assume is her video store, right? She probably owns this place.
Seems like it. She's the last Blockbuster holdout.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. I kind of love it. I don't know. I have so many questions. Let's just wait until we get there, I guess, because it'll make more sense in context. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about this episode, so let's do it. We start off in 1996 with Thaisa finding another symbol. Van tries to convince her to talk to Lottie about it. Ty, of course, refuses and heads back to the cabin. Flash forward to the current day, and Thaisa wakes up in her car miles from home, no gas, and she's got this dossier next to her on the Yellowjackets, and she just starts walking down the road.
Yeah, it turns out that the dossier was like flipped open to the materials about Van's VHS store here.
Sure, makes sense.
I thought it was kind of clever to have Van making a map. Mm-hmm. That's, she's trying to map out Ty's mind essentially, and then Ty coming to from a fugue state in the car using a map to try to get the van.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
and the two timelines you're dealing with here, yeah, it meets up nicely. I figured when they showed this map that they were doing exactly what they were doing here, which was the map. The locations of these symbols are going to turn out to be a symbol in aggregate if you mapped them out. It looks like that's what they're doing. So clearly, like, Ty's deeply connected to the symbols. It's just a matter of like what that means, I guess. Yeah,
it could mean that she may. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of things it could mean. I freeze framed and looked at the address. It's 1201 East Vine Avenue, Corbin, Ohio. That's a fictional town in Ohio, but the Yellowjacks just moved to our great state, Jim.
Really?
Yeah.
We're in Ohio here?
We're in Ohio, Corbin, Ohio.
Okay. From New York? It doesn't Ty live in New York?
Yeah.
Holy shit, she traveled a ways.
Yeah, I wonder what her assistant thinks. That she's just going to, like, she's going to get her car back and it's going to have like 1,200 miles on it, and actually it's just going to be abandoned in the middle of Ohio, apparently. Well, let me ask you this. So we start to fugue state with Ty observing her shadow self going about business in her home. It's kind of interesting that she's able to spy on. She's getting the ability to spy on her shadow self. Why is evil Ty, if we're going to call her that, Dark Ty? Why is Dark Ty trying to reach her fixer, Jessica Roberts?
That's a really good question. It's not going to work, obviously. She's dead.
Well, I mean, it's not that. It's like, yeah, it's like this is something that Light Ty, or Good Ty, like she had full. I mean, the fixer is her idea, right? Are they going to retcon the? Well, not retcon. Are they going to fully explain this as that there's something more sinister underlying the contract? That like some special instructions only Dark Ty was able to.
It could be, but I mean, it could just be sort of. I'm trying to gauge like how surprised is she by this dossier. This isn't something that like sleeping Ty has been making behind waking Ty's back, right?
Well, my idea was this is something compiled by her campaign staff as potentially damaging information that could be researched. That's the whole reason she got to fix her, right? She wanted to investigate to make sure all of her friends were solid and they weren't going to do some kind of tell-all embarrassing thing while she was running for the Senate.
Well, I mean, that's what she says, sure. There could be another reason. Who knows?
Well, but I mean, that would be a Dark Ty thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like, that's a story that Ty, her conscious self, thinks is going on. That to me, that's a fully satisfactory explanation. But it could be an opportunity that Dark Ty used to inject her own stuff into it. But yeah, you're right. Ty doesn't.
Sure.
Yeah, Ty doesn't know that Misty killed the fixer.
No, not yet.
I'm sure Misty will tell people that, right? It's not that she's hiding it. It's just that she's literally not talked to anyone but Shauna.
Yeah, and I don't think Misty knows that she was hired by Ty, right? So, like, there's no real reason for her to bring it up. She thinks it's just a journalist looking into their affairs. So, like, if her and Ty get back together, there's no real reason for her to bring it up.
I thought there's a possibility that maybe she had
up.
discovered the truth toward like when she leveled with her at the end. But no, you're right, because she was promising her like an exclusive story and her rights option and all that. Yeah, I think she was sticking to that.
So I don't know. It could be interesting if they get together and that secret, both of those secrets are still there. Like, they don't know that Ty was checking up on him, and also they don't know that reporter's dead.
And what would Dark Ty want with Van?
I don't know. I feel like it's something we haven't seen yet, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's whatever they're going to discover about Ty in the woods is going to come back here.
Well, it's fascinating because they keep on having me double guess what I think is like the good and the bad Yellowjackets. Like before the last episode or two, I'd have been like, Lottie's fucking evil. Like, she's like a real piece of work, and I still was not impressed with her running a cult, but we learned a lot about it this week that cast a different light on things. And the fact that Lottie does not seem like she is interested in being an antler queen again. She's taking active steps to do it. But so it's like, I thought this, like, oh, this is all, like that when we understand everything, Lottie's going to be behind all this stuff, Doesn't seem like that's the case. Now it's like, it seems like Ty is and not even Ty, but this shadow version of Ty is the real malevolent one. But I don't know, we'll have to see where it goes, because it could be that there's a layer on top of it.
Yeah, and all these visions that Lottie's seeing could be warnings to her to try and help save the team, right? If you're saying, okay, well, the Dark One is sort of leading Ty in her sleepwalking state around to do terrible things to the team, maybe. Yeah. That Lottie could be the protector here, which, kind of lines up with some of the things that the kids think about her out in the wilderness, right?
Right.
She's a provider of food. She uses these symbols to protect people, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't think it bodes well that they are essentially in the center of a giant symbol out in the wilderness and all these terrible things are happening. But, it could just be, well, the terrible thing that happened is they crashed in the wilderness and the symbol's like keeping them safe. But I don't know. It seems more
also, we don't know that Ty in her fugue state isn't making these symbols. So it would make perfect sense that there's, she's making the symbol centered on their cabin, right? And even if I want to play ultimate skeptic, then there's also no evidence that these dots actually connect in the way that Van does. It could be just like Ty says, this is just a bunch of random yarn you're just tracing out on arbitrary points,
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, you're seeing patterns you want to see, right?
I feel like if you some of the people that I see in feedback and on forums, and even I'm hearing on my own podcast, would flip like heads 10 times in a row and join a cult. I just feel like, like crazy shit, crazy coincidence happens,
So there's a massive difference between something like this in real life and something like this on a fictional scripted drama. In a fictional scripted drama, you don't put red herrings that last seasons long. It's bad form. But in a fictionalized series, you want things to mean things. So this means something, right? It's not a random coincidence. It's not like, oh, you drew the lines in a weird way and so it matches up, but it actually means nothing. I don't think that would be satisfying at all.
Let me suggest a meaning that we could both agree on, which is the showrunners want us to really be on a razor's edge about whether this is a supernatural or
absolutely
natural events of coincidence. And I think that's the only, like, saying everything is like, well, it's got to mean something, like the birds, everything's got to mean something, because I know it could still be a coincidence and that could still be narratively useful because they're wanting to, especially if because like, man, I fell down a rabbit hole looking about this Magus stuff, and I kind of want to wait to talk about it, but like when I read that, I'm like, oh my God, we might be in for we might be in for a wild ride.
Yeah, it's possible. I read some stuff on that too, and I'm kind of excited by it.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about it here in a bit. All right, let's go current day. Jeff questions Shauna's story on how the van got home, and he tells her that the cops know about the affair with Adam. And she kind of lashes out at him.
Yeah.
I thought they had come to some kind of understanding last episode, but Jeff's going to say it later in the episode. Like, yeah, we're not like fully over this thing. It's just like we had a conversation about it, but there's still hurt feelings.
Yeah. And it's also one of those things where like, there's been murder and cover up involved. At what point do you decide to like, hey, we're going to go back to living like regular people at some point, right? Like, cause that's where the world he's living in. Like, Jesus Christ, why are you doing all this risky stuff? And she brings it back to like, well, yeah, I should have wore a scream mask and blackmailed everybody. But it's like, that's okay, yes, crazy shit has happened, but are we going to get back to living as solid citizens? And it's just funny because like clearly I think Sean is not ready to do that.
No, she is looking for something in her life that she has not found yet. And I don't think she's going to find it chopping cucumbers with her daughter, but we'll see.
And her daughter chopping cucumbers. Jeff's going to end up a rotisserie chicken by the end of the season is all I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah.
They already got the cult of the feminine is already sharpening knives and cutting up phallic objects. It's all over for Jeff. It's all over for Jeff. I'm telling you.
Run, Jeff, run.
The cucumber theory is solid. Yeah. He better go find a bed and breakfast himself.
All right. Lottie dresses up to go to the bank. Nat tries to get her keys so she can run the farmer's market booth with Lisa, which, I don't know, seemed like bullshit, but it turns out it was real. And Lottie gives her the keys.
Yeah. Clearly Nat has a ulterior interest in getting his keys. We don't even know by the end of the episode what it is. We just know that she's got some doors that she wants to jiggle the handles on and open. Last
episode she was eyeing Lottie's cabin, so I assume she wants in there. We'll see.
Yeah, and I really like the dance where it's like Nat's trying to pretend that she's taking an interest in Lisa. And I think you're supposed to understand that Lottie is questioning Nat's loyalty, but knows because of the bullshit frame she's got here, that she has to kind of trust her. And then the twist of kind of Nat liking Lisa and them kind of bond, like the thing that the cover story that she said she was doing became the actual story. There's so much subtext going on in all these scenes where it's like there's a whole script that's not being said in addition to the main script. And I think it's great.
Yeah, I like that Lottie's seeing opportunities to get Nat more into her group here, more intertwined with them by, putting her in situations with other members. Okay, maybe it's like at Nat's suggestion, but also, Nat's going to spend some time with her members and she's going to get a lot of their philosophy and start to think about that stuff. So I think Lottie is like letting her ease herself into this cult life, I think. She's very sly about how she does it. Very good at it.
Yeah.
All right. Ty isn't answering Misty's calls and her feelings are getting hurt. Then they're driving out to Cherry Grove or whatever that town is. Walter tries to distract her with show tunes, but Misty gets angry because she thinks he's a Yellowjackets obsessive. He insists he's not, and he flatters her, which seems to calm Misty a bit. And then they put on some show tunes.
What are the odds that Walter is a Yellowjackets obsessive?
I read some theories on Reddit that I kind of like.
Okay.
That he could, this Moriarty comment. The Moriarty comment is not as innocent as it seemed, which it didn't seem innocent at all last episode. You can start to see breadcrumbs to a Walter who might be a Yellowjackets obsessive and potentially is engineering situations here in the current day to get more information about them.
Is this where we want to talk about the Magus? Or
maybe? Because where the book actually appears doesn't hold much weight for me.
Right. And it's also not the first time it's appeared. Apparently, it's appeared already in season 1. This is the first time I sat up and took notice of it. So how does let's start with this. How does the Magus How does it tie into this theory, to your understanding?
So the idea, the I guess Cliff Notes version of the Magus is that it's essentially David Fincher's The Game, which is a guy is put through a game which is meant to psychologically, let's say, disorient him in hopes of teaching him something about himself.
It's kind of like A Wonderful Life, only demented.
Sure.
And but it's similar, kind of, they're trying to sift the worth of someone's soul.
Yeah, and it's all, the game itself is all this massive psychological manipulation to make you think that the world around you has gone mad, and in turn you are going mad. And that's kind of, what you could see with some of these characters, right? I think Ty's an exception. I think she might have some real shit going on. But Walter's in there just kind of injecting himself into this scenario and messing with the people involved.
Yeah, and the antagonist of the novel is said to be a Nazi collaborator during World War II. And I guess when these games start, the protagonist assumes that he is trying to tell something covert about his own, the Nazi collaborator sins and his guilty conscience. And again, I haven't read this book. I probably need to. It talks about that they're doing, the things he's doing is exposing him to like these plays and productions, and they're compared to the works of the Marquis de Sade. They're described as obscene parodies of Greek myths, reenactments of Nazi occupation and war crimes. And one of the things the protagonist does by the end of the novel is realize that these skits are more about, or at least he starts to think that are more about his own life than they are about the Nazi collaborators. Mm-hmm. So the theory being that like there is some that this Moriarty figure has got some kind of pleasure or plan of Misty to kind of put her, to maybe even to kidnap all of these Yellowjackets and try to reenact the things that happened 25/30 years ago, depending on whether Walter's talking or not.
Yeah, so one of the theories that I was reading on Reddit was posted by Leech Therapist, and it talks about another book called Remainder.
Yes,
by Tom McCarthy. Mm-hmm. And that one is about a millionaire who essentially is the exact story of Walter here that he gives, where a bunch of bricks or whatever fell on his head and he got a big settlement, and now he is paying people to reenact memories from his own life. So if you kind of synthesize those two ideas, the game / Magus here and Remainder, you kind of come to something I could see with Walter. He's not reenacting memories of his own life. He wants to reenact what happened on the island. I think that's an interesting possibility. Yeah,
I think there's something to it. Because
the Moriarty comment, right? That is not innocent. You don't say I'm your Moriarty if you're not trying to fuck with somebody.
Well, and I also getting very strong suspicions that you're supposed to understand that what Walter's doing to Misty here is the same thing that Misty did to Jessica, the fixer, last year. That she is telling her what she wants to hear. She's putting her at ease. She's letting her underestimate her and to think she's quirky and all this other stuff. And the fact that Misty, she has so many these very similar to Lottie, where she has a fear response where subconscious says you're gonna freeze that, you gotta wake up, right? These are jolts from Misty's brain of this is not feeling right, and Walter's able to just kind of smooth them over. None of them make any sense though. I guess the fact that the guy loves obscure show tunes, that kind of checks out, because
but there's there's a tell in that scene, man.
Which scene are we talking about? This one about the
with the show tunes. He whips out this thing of show tunes, and he's obviously got Misty's number, right? She loves show tunes. Mm-hmm. And she calls him on that and is like, you're some obsessive. And he claims he's not. He just likes show tunes. And then when Misty refuses to put on one of the show tunes, he picks the one show tune out of that box that he knows she will absolutely not listen to, and starts to put it in the player to force her to make a decision on the show tune. So he knows her way better. And it's hard to tell with Elijah Wood. He's such a good actor. He's got this subtle smile on his face the entire show, really. And he never really breaks it, so you can't tell if that is the moment where he's intentionally smiling slyly, right?
Right.
And I love that. But to me, like, him picking the tape that he knows she will refuse to listen to is him tipping his hand that he actually did plan all this.
Yeah. But it's also plausible because, you know, I could see a person that likes Broadway musicals having Starlight Express, but also knowing that is extreme. So do you know? Okay.
I don't know.
There's
not a tape in that box except for Singing in the Rain that I've seen.
I've never seen it. I've heard a couple songs. I've never actually I've never actually seen this production of this, and I was not aware of the plot, but I looked into it. This is an allusion to Starlight Express, which is, as Misty says, essentially Cinderella, where all the characters are trains. And I watched like a 10-minute excerpt from the stage play, the musical, and the entire cast is wearing like these disco costumes and roller skates. The entire cast is roller skating because they're trains, you see. And sure. I'm like, this is the fucking stupidest thing I've ever seen. But that's exactly what I thought when I saw Cats the first time. And it took me 2 or 3 kind of ironic hate watches of Cats before I'm like, God damn, this Magic Mr. Mistopheles is kind of a jam. You know what? I'm into the Skimbleshanks guy. Like, Cats is literally a play where various cats introduce themselves and tell you what their cat lives are, just mundane cat lives for the most part. And at the end, one of like a vaguely magical cat decides which one of them gets to go up to heaven and get reincarnated. That is the plot to Cats. So like, I guess Starlight Express might be in that same category, but damn, it's wild. So it's like, did he really know Misty that well? Or is this like, you know, it's like you've probably got, if you back in the 90s had a CD binder full of your CDs, and
I'd put on Papa Roach, and then they'd
exactly. You know what I'm saying. You'd know the track. People be like, fuck, you got Stone Temple Pilots and Sound Goblins and these guys, and you're gonna give me this Papa Roach business? No, no, I'm putting on Evita instead.
Sure. No, I know what you're saying. Yeah, it could just be a general. Any fan of show tunes would not want to hear Starlight Express,
or if you do suggest it and they're on with it, then you know your soulmates, right? It's like you're either provoking them to, you know, tell them your true preference, or you found a soulmate for life. That's the thing, is like, I don't know whether he's doing this as an attraction, as an intellectual exercise.
I get the impression that it's the latter. That this is something he's doing to amuse himself.
But that would make it it's kind of funny, but it's also perverse, and that would be the only true thing that he said to Misty, that I'm just doing this because I'm bored.
Yeah.
But I'm fucking with you.
I don't know.
Man, how pissed is Misty going to be if he successfully pulls the wool over her eyes and then she realizes it?
Here's the thing. I don't know that he actually realizes who he's dealing with, right? I don't think he knows what happened in the woods. I don't think he knows Misty as well as he thinks he knows Misty. And that is a very dangerous game to play. He doesn't realize the fire he's playing with, I think.
But we also have no idea who the fuck he is and what he's about. Like,
very true.
He could have been one of those wolf boys that got raised by wild animals and didn't learn to speak until he's 13. And
is he Javi? Maybe he's Javi.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Elijah Woods is Javi, actually. Yeah. That the bricks just beat the Latino out of him, and
right.
Yeah, the reconstructive surgery left him paler and different bone structured.
No, I don't know. We'll see where that goes, but I really think he ought to be careful, because Misty is no one to be trifled with, and he's trifling.
No, I mean, that's the thing. It's so delicious. Like, God, I hope Elijah lasts more than one season, because like I kind of want him to be like ultimate antagonist protagonist. And there's like several of those pairings, right? You got Ty versus you got the triangle of Ty versus Lottie versus Nat. Now you've got Misty with Walter. Yeah, it's I like it. Lots of conflict.
For sure. All right, let's go back to 96. Shauna busts into the cabin and claims someone stole some of the bear meat. No one fesses up. Mari accuses Coach Ben, and a bunch of arguments break out. One specifically about whether Lottie is the actual food provider of the group. And Nat suggests, let's have a contest. Let's go out for a day, see who comes back with the most food, me or Lottie.
It's very biblical, right? It reminds me of that time when I can't remember if it was Elisha or Elijah or Samuel challenges the false gods of Canaan to a god off, right? Like they're going to set up two identical altars, and they're all going to pray their gods, and whichever spontaneously combusts is going to be the official god of the Israelite kingdom. It's just a good old fashioned faith, I guess, versus rationality. This is as Jack Locke as you can get.
Oh yeah, for sure. It kind of surprised me here to see Coach like up and about and coherent, and like I thought he was closer to death last episode than apparently he was.
See, if you'll recall, I was a little bit more like, I don't know about that, because I thought he's a lot more psychologically damaged. And again, like a lot of the tone of last week is like they're near starvation. I think they're near starvation until they ate Jackie. It's just one of those things where it's like, because they still have their larder is full of bear meat. They have other things they can eat.
Yeah, they have been rationing it. Like that was like one of my things is like how they didn't do an amazing job of telling me they were super close to starving to death, but apparently they weren't.
That's what I'm saying. They're like left. They're a indeterminate amount of time before they actually run out of food, and then they're probably 2 to 3. Assuming they're like near starvation, they're like 2 to 3 weeks away from starving from that point. So it's like,
right.
Yeah, I
thought that was getting to Coach more. He's kind of up and coherent and everything. So
it seemed like what his distress was primarily psychological, which fair enough. You see a feral pack of teenage girls eat one of their own, and again, you're a one-legged man here.
Yeah. And he's going to slip back into it later this episode too.
Oh, yeah.
All right, current day, we're writing to... Yep.
What do you make of the mystery of the because there's lots of these mysteries adding up. Who is shitting in the bucket? Who is stealing the bear meat?
Who looks like a bucket shitter in that group?
Honestly, the Mary's mouse that she finds, I thought would be a good candidate for bear meat stealer, but like, unless this mouse is just dropping deuces like dogs, I can't see that he could take credit for the bucket.
I don't think so. Maybe he's got a family to feed. Maybe they're all eating the bear meat. I don't know.
It still doesn't explain the bucket.
Oh yeah, well they all shit
if someone
together.
Comes in and says, "Who put a bunch of black rice in the bucket?" Fair enough, but she's no. It looks like a human-sized turd. So unless this is the kiwi of mice, and the kiwi lays an egg as about as big as his body, I don't see this mouse is doing it.
What about Ty? Think she's getting up in the middle of the night, eating bear meat, and then shitting it into a bucket?
She makes the most sense. Like, she's the one that we know, but also Van is like on top of her. Like, how could she escape?
Seems like it.
Multiple evenings in a row from her containment without. So it's like that kind of makes her seem very not a leading contender.
Is it Shauna? Is she maybe dissociating a bit? I know, like, the whole thing with Jackie was hard on her.
Thing. And she was disassociated. I mean, that's, when you're hallucinating your dead friend talking and all that, and you making her look good at makeup, even though she looks like Ronald McDonald, that is...
She seemed to be aware of that stuff, that she was doing it, but here she's very pissed.
But in the moment, I don't know that she was. She would, like, snap to awareness of understanding what she was doing, like when the ear would break off or something, but I don't know that in the moment, minute by minute, when she was talking, that she understood that this is a coping mechanism or whatever. But it's tough, like it's debatable, like a lot of things on the show.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to current day again. We're on the ride to the market. Nat raises a bunch of questions about how culty Lottie's compound seems, and Lisa defends Lottie's group. You can go out whenever you want, stay out for as many days as you want. What's culty about that, A.Ron?
I mean, that's the ultimate thing. It's like sometimes having rules where normal people would be like, you know,
that's just the default, right? Like,
yeah,
of course
like,
you can go out and stay out. You can fucking leave forever if you want.
But this is also, because that's the thing. It's like, first time through, I'm like, fucking Lottie. I knew it. She's running some cult bullshit. These people don't have. And like, the more I got to this, the more this seemed like a halfway house between like intensive inpatient care and like outpatient in care. Like if you got a hardcore addiction or substance abuse or you're harming yourself, that this is kind of like something that you and so it's like it isn't like you're free to go because you should be there. You're getting treatment, but it's also not like you're still a free agent. You're not committed involuntarily. I don't know. It's weird. It seems like it's rife for abuse to have kind of like some kind of unlicensed amateur. But then again, I don't know. Maybe Lottie has gotten some professional qualifications. So the more I learned about this cult, the more it seemed, again, maddeningly like it's right on the line between something you could call. And again, when I say cult, I'm not talking about it's just wacky beliefs. I'm talking about it being a high control group. About it, like, you know, restricting their but boy, it's tough. What did you think? How did you come down on it?
Yeah, I come down on like a light version, a cult light. Like she specifically says here, like you can go out whenever you want, you can stay out for as many days as you want. And that's the plain reading of that is, well, I could go for the rest of my days, right? I could leave forever and no one would have a problem with that. The sort of implied thing there is you'll be back and we expect you to come back in a certain number of days. Don't stay out too long.
Right.
Come back to us. So otherwise you just say, yeah, you can leave whenever you like. That's the way to phrase that. That isn't like culty to me.
Right.
It's, you can stay out for as many days as you want.
But you
what
will
if I want to
back.
stay out for years?
You will be back, and we will kidnap you in a van if you...
Potentially, yeah.
But and then if you're killing, you know, like going to kill so that's...
Yeah, I mean, it's different, like the way that Nat came to it. But like, I very much found this as cult light. These people are here. They're probably here for good reason in some case. They seem to want to be here. I don't know the circumstances of their initiation into this because I could see a future where Nat wants to stay here, but boy, she sure didn't come to this honestly, right?
Yeah, and it reminded me of like when I got out of the workforce and I started doing podcasting. It was about 10-ish years ago, and the last job I had one of these unlimited vacation policies, which sounds really amazing when they're telling you about it, but in practice means I took less vacation because we were kept so busy that it's kind of like, well, you know, and they always have it says like, you should talk to Ben. He took 6 weeks and hiked through the fucking Nepal, the mountains of Nepal. And like, that's actually true. He did do that, but he also had worked like a 4-year nonstop 70-hour work week to get to that point. And when he finally finished a project, he took 6 weeks off and got right back to it. Like,
and his workmates looked at him like, God damn it, you left us for 6 weeks here, not pulling your weight, you fucker.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, and I thought Nat was wise to call that out. That sounds like an illusion of freedom that gives you even more shackles of control on you.
100%. But, you know, it doesn't seem like there's any form of sort of excommunication. It doesn't seem like those high control mechanisms are there.
Right. Like if you can go for as long as you want and come back and be welcome back, and you don't have to atone or grovel or undergo any kind of punishment or like, then yeah, that's starting to sound like less culty and more healthy. But
well, here's the other negative.
Yeah.
The strike against this cult is when Lisa wants to stop by her mom's house, she says, "Oh yeah, the guy who I usually travel with doesn't allow us to go on any other stops, right?
Yes.
And you wonder, is that like, oh, well, he just doesn't want to waste the time going there, or is it something where he's been told, or he's like so far into this cult where he thinks it's a bad idea to fraternize with outside people?
But then, and is this particular, like, you know, like she's like, hey, I want to stop off and get a snow cone. He's like, no, we're only going to the farmer's market and back. Or it's like, hey, I just want to stop by and see my mom. And he's like, yeah, that's a huge trigger for you. And the last 3 times you've talked to her, you've tried to kill yourself. So like, no. And
sure, there are better and worse ways to do that.
Right. I don't know that any of those are like completely good, but yeah, you know, helping a person who doesn't have boundaries with their loved ones set those might be something healthy. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist.
Sure. And what I see of her mom in this episode isn't exactly encouraging, but
pretty fucking bad. Again, it's like one of those things where it's like, I was playing a tennis match in my mind about cult, you know, not a cult. Not because like it just kept on changing as the ball was hit back and forth over the sides of the net.
Like that's the biggest thing this show has going for it, is that writing the line nature of pretty much everything. And you know, it's fair to point out that that's what Lost had going for it for a long damn time too. That didn't turn out so well, so I hope they have a better ending in mind.
But it worked beautifully to perfection with The Leftovers, so it can be done.
Fair.
I don't know if it can be done if you're trying to do 9 seasons open-ended with no end in sight or in mind, but it can be done. It can be done.
All right, Lottie talks with a substitute therapist. She asks to up her meds because she's been having visions again. The therapist asks her to examine the visions rather than trying to push them away. Lottie is understandably resistant to that.
This doctor is terrible.
I had the same feeling, but I don't really know enough about therapy to understand why.
I can't imagine a patient who has years of mental trauma and has had it controlled for years and comes in and is like, my visions are starting again. I think we need to up the dose. I can't imagine any psychologist or therapist with a working license would be like, have you considered listening to the delusions? Have you considered what the delusions might have to say? Like, it's fucking crazy. And like, I got the idea that she's essentially refusing to adjust Lottie's medication. So I noticed that there's some anger at people who are wanting to see that everyone is connected to everything. That like, oh, the Adam Zavi theory. And like every single time you introduce somebody, oh, it must be a schoolmate or something. But like, if there is some outside agent trying to destabilize and engineer a situation where the Yellowjackets start yellowjacketing again, replacing, because the other thing is like, her doctor just went on an emergency sabbatical with no notice, but
didn't call and tell his
but she wasn't scheduled
that?
For another couple months, right, to come back. Like, she's been clockwork for 20 years, and like, why, and their appointment, so it's like, again, there are but like, this is the one where I feel like, no, there's got to be something to this, because that just didn't seem like any kind of good psychological advice.
Which outside agent are you leaning toward? You think this is a Walter thing?
Walter is the one that makes the most sense and seems like the most fun possibility. And I'm trying to think of also like who's got, because you got to have resources to pull this shit off, to hire fixers and to get dossiers and to manipulate and to like this. If you fully understand it, did he cause Jeff's financial distress somehow? You're like, so you like you'd have to have like a multi-million-dollar war chest to kind of fuck around with people like this. Like you and I couldn't, you know, like I could fill your house with ping pong balls. That's the level.
All right.
That's what my bank account could do to psychologically fuck with you. I couldn't get your doctor to go out of the country and, you know, cut power to your house. And, you know, I just feel like he's the one that makes the most sense and is the most fun possibility. Do you see any others?
Not that aren't like supernatural. No.
Like
right
Dark
now, Walter's right. Yeah, if there is some like Dark One force at work here, that could also do it. But yeah it seems like Walter's the best option.
Yeah. And that's that. I mean, I got to be aware of my bias. My bias is definitely looking for the non-supernatural in every one of these scenes. which is probably going to drive a lot of you people crazy that wants to see the supernatural. But again, coincidence. There's some crazy
every
shit.
episode we get, I'm feeling more like this show will probably go over into the supernatural eventually, and I probably won't be able to like say this is the moment that it did, because it will have already happened, and they'll just explain, okay, this is actually, it's a supernatural, right?
You're probably right. Yeah.
I think that's the way the show is going to go, but I really don't know. So we'll see. I'm still on that line. All right, 1996, Misty goes over the rules of the hunting contest. Nat takes the only gun. Then they head out into the woods alone, her and Lottie. Lottie finds a symbol on the tree, but no food. And Nat finds tracks and starts following them.
I really like how petty Nat is about this, because when they suggest a fairness of getting a gun, then she said it's like, because Lottie's not a hunter. Oh, no, Lottie's better than a hunter. She's fucking magic. She's got God delivering food to her. Like, why does she need a gun? I love that. That's great. And also, I thought this episode did a really good job of sympathizing or humanizing Lottie to me. Like when she goes and tries to commune with the tree and the symbol and shuts her eyes, and then she kind of opens and says, fuck, like she realizes, like, I think she realizes this is ridiculous, but she also hasn't had her medication in a long time, and she is seeing things, and food is being provided, and people are being protected. So
yeah, the thing I kept thinking is, why is Lottie going along with this? And and I'm not saying she shouldn't. I'm not saying... I'm just trying to get in her mental state. Like, what does she think of herself right now? Does she think she's able to go out into this woods and call down food from the sky, literally? Does she think she has a chance of winning this competition? And if not, does she think that will maybe, further her agenda, or if she even has one, or to keep them alive somehow by just participating in this thing? I'm trying to get in her head, because she says nothing during this entire thing. She's like, everybody's prepping this contest, giving rules. Nat's out there talking shit, and she's just dead silent the whole time with a look on her face that's kind of like, I don't know about any of this, guys. What are we doing?
I think you're right.
But she doesn't voice any of it.
I think that she has these, like all her life have had these paranoid delusions, and that like one time in her whole life, one of these paranoid delusions about this premonition that her parents were going to get hurt came true. Probably a big formative event for her. Now she's out in the woods, and seemingly there's all these coincidences, and like again, it's like she's mentally ill. I don't know how to ascribe the agency, and it's like, I know people say, well, it's like, that's not an excuse for this, that, and the other, which is true. But like, you're out in a wilderness situation and you can't get your hands on any kind of medication or therapy, then like, you're kind of going to be in the throes of what your brain chemistry is doing. So like, you talking about having an agenda and stuff. I don't know that she has an agenda other than trying to react and make sense of the things that are happening to her. Like, I definitely didn't feel like she's malevolent in this episode. Which I kind of was high suspicion before. I think she's genuine and thinking that all this Yellowjacket shit that happened in the woods was a terrible thing. That was all, her brain chemistry, and things got out of hand, and she never wants it to happen again. And also thinking that like, her genuine therapy that she's doing today is helpful and helping others and making like she seems very, very genuinely proud of what she's built, and she doesn't want to lose it. So, but hell, we can find out she's got a dark Lottie, that's doing all this. Because like, you could say the same thing about Ty politically, that she was trying to be this force for good and change things and blah blah blah, but she's got this thing that's dragging her and has this other agenda. So I don't know, but I think what we're seeing with Ty and Lottie is that they both have some kind of either psychological issue or trauma that's caused some kind of brain thing that's happening to them.
Yeah, it was just strange to me that Lottie seems so proactive in some of these scenes, like telling people how it is and what needs to happen and what she's trying to do. And then in other scenes like this one, she seems so go with the flow, so like laissez-faire about everything. I wonder if she has like these, because like I've known friends, I've had a couple good friends that have had like severe bipolar
paranoid delusion type of complexes, and like even in the throes of like mania, they'll have untreated mania, I should say. They'll have like, you know, moments of like lucidity and clarity. But like, and that's what I think it is. It's like she's doing like she's doing all these rituals. She's brewing tea that, you know, and doing all these things, and like she's being very bossy about it. But I guess like I wonder if Nat been like would said like when she offers her the tea, she's like, "Are you fucking crazy? Why am I going to drink this fucking boiled bark or shit?" Like would like she snap to and be like, I like, or she still be like this haughty, and I've always assumed that she would. I always assumed that she believed her own bullshit. But it's, man, I don't know. This episode doesn't make it seem like that.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, the you can't factor out this mental illness, right? It's
like
going to be with her right now.
So she's seeing this test as like valuable to herself as well, and she is not confident that she can pass it. But yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting.
All right, let's move on to the current day again. Shauna runs into the mother of Callie's friend, I think, who says, actually, she hasn't been sleeping over at our house. And Shauna goes through her daughter's room and finds the partially burned photo of Adam. And then, you know, this is kind of obviously connected. Callie's texting with Jay about meeting up, and then Shauna drives up and invites her to go have some fun.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't know. It's funny because like I used to be a teenager that snuck around a little bit, and you never know when your web of lies is going to be exposed by an errant remark or a parent talking to another parent and then putting two and two together. But sure. I felt for Callie on this, as she's like, you know, had no idea mom's going to bump into her at Target or whatever. And then, but yeah, I don't have much to say about these scenes.
I think it's going to get super interesting here next episode when, you know, now that Callie knows about everything, is she still going to meet up with Jay? Because she doesn't know that Jay's a cop. She's been meeting up with him apparently and drinking in a park, which, my fucking God, this cop needs to be thrown off a cliff. What a piece of shit.
That's the cop she's been meeting up with?
Well, she's texting him about meeting tonight. Yeah, at 7.
Oh shit! He's doing somewhere. This is some Real Americans type shit. Like,
yeah, it's fucked up, man.
I don't know.
There's a 16-year-old girl. He's getting her drunk in the park at night,
Ooh.
Like, and presumably just trying to get information from her, but who knows what else?
Okay, I did not put two and two together that was the friend.
I believe so. So what happens, you know, now that she's kind of in on the family transgressions here? Is she going to stop meeting with Jay? Is she going to confide in him the new information she has? Like, it's going to get real interesting next episode.
Now that you said that, I now have a prediction that I'm going to put 50 internet points behind.
All right.
The cops are going to have Shauna and Jeff dead to rights at this murder thing. And they're going to be backed the fuck off by this inappropriate relationship that this cop is having with their daughter. And Callie's going to aid and abet that. She's going to like really turn on the jets and get him on the compromising thing. And it's going to...
All right,
I mean, yeah, so... like what? How could you make a case when the investigator is trying to seduce the person's daughter? Right? Like that's like fruits of the fucked up poisonous tree right there.
Absolutely.
So I feel, because like I keep on watching. I'm like, how are they going to get out of this? How are they going to get out of this? They're just bad at crime, as Shauna says, and there's just so much evidence, circumstantial, motive, physical, that's going to link them. But like this even his partner's saying, this is crazy, dude. You shouldn't do this. It's got to be their get out of jail free card.
I think you're right. All right, let's move on to Misty asking why Walter doesn't have to work. And he says, I'm a millionaire from an accident settlement. A bunch of shit fell on my head, which I love the idea that like, maybe Walter just has brain damage and he's doing all this stuff because his brain's not working right. Then she asks the waitress about the cult, and the waitress tells Misty they're at the farmer's market every Tuesday, which is today.
Yeah, I do like that line that like, this is a small town. Of course they're going to know where the cult is, because of course they would. You know,
Yeah.
you stop in any diner in our hometown of Mooresville and say, hey, where's the weird Joppa church at? Everyone can, any waiter, waitress, line cook will tell you, oh yeah, you just go down.
And we weren't even wearing like the distinctive purple stuff. We were just wearing suits and shit. So
Right. I thought that was really funny. But this clearly is a bullshit story. Like, look, I don't think there's enough plastic surgery in the world to make scaffolding dropping a load of bricks on your head to the tune of $6 million in damage make you look like Elijah Woods at the end of the day. Like you would have like you would have scars and your face, you would have visible signs of trauma, right?
I would think almost certainly. But I don't know. Freakish things have happened, man. People get railroad spikes through the head and somehow live.
Maybe if like it all just hit him in the back of the head and it's a depressed skull fracture and
like a glancing blow, sure.
And they just peeled it, like all the scars are under his scalp and under his hair.
Hair
like,
transplants, yeah.
Maybe, but also you think that Misty could prove, like she'd be like, well, then show me if you got a metal plate in your arm, then show me the circular incision scar or whatever, and he could like, but she's just like all these what seemingly obvious lies. It just instantly puts her to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, he's got one thing going for his lie here is that eggs and ham with syrup and mustard is a dish that only a brain damaged person could love. So,
you know, I was with it. I'm like, all right, this is a breakfast fucking sandwich, man. Using meat for bread. I'm liking this up until the mustard came out, and then because I'm like, yeah, ham, good, eggs, good, syrup, all right, mustard, what the fuck? So. The thing is
put on? Is he trying to be weird here for weird's sake?
I don't know. And the other thing I want to talk to you about is like he seemed to be genuinely moving to his phone to offer to show her. But that's also like a seventh Dan black belt manipulation tactic. To like when a person that's in your life is starting to like suspect you of something to just offer to like, well, I'll just prove it right now and start going through the motions of your phone and relying on the social convention of the other person to be put off by the fact that like, oh, I'm making a false accusation. I don't want to seem like, oh, okay. It's like, that's like, but she should know that, right?
Sure. And I mean, it all comes back to how well he knows Misty, I guess. And he's got to know that she's socially unconventional.
Oh, I think he's got like cameras in her house know her.
Yeah.
Knows every financial transition she's made or transaction she's made. Yeah. And maybe she does know because like she gets angry when he pulls out his phone and she just angrily goes and grabs the waitress and does the thing that she wanted to do and he didn't. So maybe that's a sign. And also like, I also try to keep in mind of playing both sides here that like I was this close to thinking Misty had gotten duped by that Jessica, the fixer, until the cigarette flashback. And I'm like, so like the show might be having Misty letting Walter think that he has her buffaloed just so because she's playing the game even harder. So.
But then the show could also be letting us think that Misty thinks that he thinks that she hasn't buffaloed, and then it turns out he's Moriarty, right?
Yeah, no.
And he wanted her to think that all along.
Look, I'm loving this show, but I also get a steady stream of feedback where it's clearly that the a lot of the audience members feels like they're Wesley, and they're sitting across the table from what is it? Who's the guy in The Princess Bride that just like, you know,
with the glasses and the
with
poison,
the glasses,
sure.
where it's like, oh, I only think that I want you to think that. It's like at some point, like, totally. Damn, tell a story because it does feel like with the showrunners we are. You only picked that cup because you didn't know that and like, oh my. But I think this is very entertaining. I don't know how sustainable it is, but so far so good.
Yeah, it's like Coach Beard trying to describe why they're playing a certain defense against Nate. in the latest season of Ted Lasso, right?
Yeah. That is also a pop culture reference.
That's a pop culture reference, everybody. All right, let's move on to Thaisa. She's still walking. Truck stops to pick her up, and the driver seems decent, so she gets in. Does he seem too decent, A.Ron?
That's the thing. That's the thing. What's the odds that... Wait a second. She's 3 hours from Corbin, Ohio. She was running as a state senator in New York, right?
Uh-huh.
How the fuck did this guy vote for her? Oh, he's a long-distance truck driver, so I guess that could check out.
That's quite the coincidence, though, man.
It is pretty coincidental.
I guess you're on the route. You're on, like, the thoroughfare between...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, maybe, but it's a coincidence. So
he's got a daily haul where he goes to Indianapolis, Crossroads of America, back to Hoboken or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. It does seem coincidental, and we know that Walter is manipulating some things, so why not everything?
Yeah. What did you make of the trucker's nudie pin? Was that just a way to break the ice, so you assume that they just had a good old time on the way over there? Or?
Yeah. Everything turned out fine. Thaisa gets out of that truck, no worse for wear. Guy seems like a decent guy. And
there's no goodbye or nothing. Like it does seem like the trucker chapter is just closed. It's weird. Yeah.
All right, let's go back to 1996. Mari is hearing dripping noises again and goes to investigate. She asks, I think it's Aquila, who is studying for the SATs, to go with her. And Aquila finds a mouse in the pantry.
I like where Aquila's head's at. Like, the second we get back, we're going to be 3 months late for this test and going to have to do it. And I'm not going to miss out on college because of all this cannibalism and shit. Like, she's focused on the prize. I do think that... what do you think about this Mr. Jangles that she's finding? That's like out of the Green Mile. Why is she being so secretive about this mouse? Is it because she's afraid people eat it? I think
she doesn't want them to eat it. Yeah.
There's no fucking way people would eat a mouse. Right?
It's just not enough meat to make it worth it, right?
But maybe psychologically, it's like one of those things where it's like when sailors start drinking seawater, like they know it's bad, but like they're so fucking thirsty. So like maybe you would just like you're so fucking hungry that your body just like you just put a live mouse in your mouth, chew it up and swallow it just because it's something in your belly. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know they're there now, but like you don't want to start hiding your mouse when everyone gets to that level, right? You just want to start.
Is this going to be troublesome for her later? Because if they find this mouse in her pocket, she might get accused of the other things, like the bucket shitting and
I don't know how a mouse in your pocket makes you shit in a bucket, but the bear meat for sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. But they'll blame everything on her, right? Like,
yeah.
Well, if you're dishonest about this and you're dishonest about the bucket shitting,
and like that's the other thing is like some of these gals are not as rational. Like I thought Mari was pretty down on the rationality this entire episode. Like she's quick to ascribe supernatural to coincidence. She's quick to believe in the cult of Lottie. Yeah. And I gotta say, because like logically, like, so what if someone's feeding a mouse? Like, how much?
Sure.
What fraction of a human ration is a mouse consuming per day, right? But like, I could see Mari doing that.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, Lottie finds the bear heart shrine that she made earlier, I think, and makes an offering of her blood to it. Nat finds something in the frozen lake, but we don't see what it is yet. We'll talk about that more when we get there. Current day, Lisa and Nat stop at Lisa's mom's house. Her mom seems to be pretty against her being in Lottie's cult and asks Nat to leave so she can talk to her daughter alone.
Does she call Gilly the 14th because this is the 14th goldfish she's had in her entire life?
Maybe. Hadn't thought of it.
So I think she's like, we talked about her being like wilderness baby age, although I gotta say I'm taking the wilderness baby theory out of contention because this just seems to blow it out of the water, right?
I assume, yeah. I mean, unless
we find out she was adopted.
Could be adopted when she was a year and a half old or whatever, a year old. I suppose. I don't know. I was looking at the cult red flags here. Like not wanting to tell Lottie that you saw your mom. Huge red flag. This idea of like, oh, well, the anchors are at the compound, not out in the real world. That's a control mechanism.
Oh, for sure. It actually reminded me that there's like that line in 1984 where it's like there was no rule against keeping a diary, but everyone knew that if you did and it was found, it'd be punishable by death, right? It's like
sure.
There's just no rule about it stopping at my mom's, but just don't tell Lottie, right? She'll get upset. She won't. But like, also, it makes a lot of sense that like Lottie would be concerned if she went to go talk to her mom because her mom is obviously a huge trigger for her and bad for her mental health.
Yeah.
So like trouble, like you are getting locked in a cell and not and fed gruel for 3 days, or like trouble, like I'm really worried about you making healthy decisions and keeping your boundaries with your family, and like. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, if your family is the thing that is bad for you, then not wanting you to see your family is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, it's also borderline icky. Anyway, Shauna drives Callie out to the middle of nowhere and asks her what she's been lying about. And Callie flips it on her and asks her if she killed Adam. And she admits to it, also tells her dad was a blackmailer. She unloads everything on her. She also says they did things in the wilderness that she's really ashamed of, but leaves it at that for now. And it's all a lot for Callie to process, but she promises not to tell anyone.
What do you think of her changing the single person to the collective pronoun from I to we?
When she's talking about the bad things they did in the wilderness.
Because I think it would be fair to say that Shauna might feel responsible for the way that Jackie got eaten, because it was her kind of bizarre behavior that led to that event happening. And I think it's a big theory that like Shauna is like the head butcher or throat slitter of the girls, just from what she said and from like what people are suspecting is the makeup of the different people in the intro scene. The pit girl scene. And
she is kind of the general butcher for the group with animal meat, right?
Yeah, and it felt like when she said I, and then she changed the we, she feels a lot more individual responsibility, which could just be guilt. Could be there's no there behind that reason. But I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, and with all of these things where I'm like, okay, I'm trying to piece together what they're saying with what I've already seen. We have so much yet to be seen that I'm not sure if she's speaking of something that she's done now already that we've seen, or if it's something to come and it's going to be even more transgressive. I don't know how you get there from here, but who knows, man.
This scene also, I just thought it was really funny too. Like Shauna is trying to explain like what happened. Like, well, Adam was blackmailing us, and oh fuck no, he actually wasn't the one to black. It was actually your dad. Just the way she had to tell this convoluted thing, and Callie's face during the whole thing. It's pretty. I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, and like I said, this has a potential to blow up in her face because she doesn't know that her daughter is perhaps literally sleeping with the enemy here, the cops.
Right.
We'll see.
Does her daughter even know? I don't think she knows that this Jay is a cop either. So she could, if she really trusts him, she might trust him with his bombshell. But
yeah, I mean, Callie's the kind of girl who would light him up if she knew he was a cop, right?
Probably.
Like, you're trying to seduce me with drinks in a park at night. I'm an underage girl. Like, she would destroy his life if she knew that, I think.
I think she's 16. Like, I don't even know if she has her driver's license yet.
No, she's 16.
I don't know this cop, you can't get a 16-year-old drunk and get a confession out of her, dude.
No, that doesn't stand up in court. I hate to tell him.
No, I don't think it does. All
right, back in 96, Van shows Thais the map she's been making of the symbol trees. It's in the shape of a symbol itself, but Thais refuses to agree with her conclusions. If Van is right, there should be another tree with a symbol in a specific spot, and Van asks Thais to come look for it with her.
I mean, like I said, it turns out Van is onto something here. If you want to believe it all as coincidences, but like also from Ty's perspective, this is identical to like the Charlie meme from Always Sunny, where he's got the yarn. You know, like you took a bunch of pins on a map and arbitrarily drew lines with yarn, and it kind of sort of looks like the symbol.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like it does it bother you a little bit about how pig-headed Ty is about seeing anything from Van's perspective?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Especially the condition that she has and all the things that she like. Why is she so resistant to at least seeing Van's side? Like, I think it's a coincidence, but I see what you're saying.
I think she's scared. I think she's scared because of her own and personal involvement in this.
Yeah.
I think like she's a very rational person, doesn't want to believe that any of this could be true, but that she's directly involved. Like she's out there at night, sleepwalking, finding these symbols. I think she's terrified that she could be more deeply in this than she wants to be.
I can see myself being Ty, like, because I'm pretty committed to the secular lifestyle, and if like. Like I had a Kevin Garvey situation in Leftovers where like all these things that are like happening to me and they seem kind of miraculous and everyone's wanting to ascribe them to something and I'm still trying to maintain my rationality. I can see that would just be maddening. That'd just be like,
yeah, for sure.
Just a profoundly frustrating experience. So maybe it does make sense, but yeah, I feel bad for Van because again, these are just like 17-year-old girls. You know, they haven't had a huge amount of life experience and practice in critical thinking. So,
yeah,
there's already been enough that like the average person would probably already start worshiping a cult, right? You know,
sure.
The second Lottie killed a bear with a knife because it came up to her and submitted, like that'd probably do it for most people.
Mm-hmm. And then another quick thing here. Coach flashes back to finding a box of his boyfriend's sentimental things. Apparently Ben doesn't have one of those boxes, and his boyfriend says it's the past and Ben is his future, which we know there's no future for Ben. Poor Coach Ben. He's gonna get eaten alive by these girls. Maybe alive, we'll see.
So I took it that like Coach Ben just doesn't have a lot of experience in relationships. It's not that he doesn't keep a trophy box or whatever or a memory box. It's just that he doesn't have those memories.
I think you're right, yeah.
Which is interesting gloss for his character, but I do wonder, why are we seeing this? Like what?
Me too. This feels more to me like The Walking Dead, where they give a character some backstory right before they kill them.
I mean, this is a lot better than Walking Dead because we're talking about several episodes worth of. But yeah, it's like, are they just fattening up the calf so we feel bad when he's slaughtered, or is there going to be something that really ties this in, particular to his predicament or plight out here?
I don't know. It feels like, well, the guy can't do much but sit in bed because he's got one missing leg. So let's just give him like these memories to sift through.
Yeah.
Like, because we got to do something with him. We can't eat him yet.
Right.
But we can't let him just sit there and do nothing. So
there's no juice in the squeeze. We got to juice him up.
Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe it'll connect. Maybe it'll be important later. But so far, it's just like nice little character interludes, I guess.
Yeah.
We go to current day again. Lisa continues arguing with her mother, who's being pretty shitty over her wanting to take her pet goldfish to the compound. Nat tries to jump into the argument to defend Lisa, but she doesn't want her help. And then Lisa apologizes once they get back to the car. And Nat has stolen her goldfish and spits it into a bottle of water. Her face after she spits this goldfish, man. She's awesome.
Man. She is on one. This whole episode with her faces, it's great. I love it. I mean, yeah, this is like, I see both sides of this. Like, you really should let people fight their own fights, but also like a person like Nat, I could see it being very hard. I would find it very hard to sit in a room where someone's parents is just going at him hammered. Like, that's pretty hideous. Be like, you can't take this fish. Why? You don't think I can take care of him, Mom? No, I think you'll kill yourself and then the fish will starve. Like, but also her daughter seems like she's been abducted in the purple people cult. And her daughter's got suicidal mental ideation problems, and she loves her, and she thinks this is crazy. So it's like, again, this whole fucking episode, I am torn in two between what to think about some of these scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. I kind of like this scene from a Nat perspective. Nat seems like the adult version of Nat seems to not really give a shit about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not true of the teen Nat.
Right.
Teen Nat actually cared about stuff. And I find it interesting to see how much she has changed as a person since that incident. And what really caused that change? Because so far, teen Nat still cares very much about things, right? She cares about Travis. She cares about getting them back to civilization alive. She cares about rationality and a lot of stuff. Whereas adult Nat seems to just not care about anything. She's just kind of floating through life like fuck it all.
Well, I think it's that young Nat had things that she was afraid to lose. She had her whole life ahead of her. She had Travis. True. She had friends. You know, she had like a prospects. I think adult Nat literally doesn't even care if she loses her own life. And that gives one a certain devil may care attitude about things because fuck it. You know, most of the things you get upset are about things you're afraid to lose or losses or pay. Nat's above all that. That's what I think. That's why I like
this scene, because she's jumping in here to defend somebody.
Yes.
Who she sees as being taken advantage of, not taken advantage of, but like harmed here.
Well, and Nat had terrible
showing
parents.
Sparks of caring again, right? About
and we
something.
know Nat had terrible parents. She had to shooting her father.
Oh yeah.
So like, I can see it being super triggering to see some other young person going through parents that are like, you know, seemingly dragging you down.
And I do wonder if this is all like part of Lottie's plan, right? For Nat. Is she the hero who's jumping in to try and save Nat from killing herself, or is she the person who saw that as an opportunity to convert Nat to her own cause? And she's doing that via these subtle manipulation tactics of just placing her with Lisa, who she knows will have an interaction with her mother, who will trigger Nat, who will get her to care about this cult member and thereby be further entrenched in the cult. I don't know. I don't know how crafty Lottie is.
Yeah, like I feel like you and I have gotten two different. Like I have a hard time ascribing Lottie the word crafty at this point, but like you still are a lot more open to her being, I guess, manipulative and maybe from a good. You think it's like? Do you think Lottie is the potential of being like evil?
Less and less the more I see. When she was being possessed by some spirit potentially in the cabin and speaking in French tongues and shit, I was like, oh, Lottie could just be the devil here.
Well, so like I would say that like let's rephrase the question. If she's acting under the influence of evil spirits or mental illness, I would say she's not evil. I would say that something is compelling her to do it in the same way that like when Data gets hijacked by a non-corporeal spirit in the Enterprise and hijacks everybody and like he's not court-martialed, right? At the end of that because he wasn't responsible for his actions. So like I guess like do you think that like because I keep on the way you phrase things, it makes me feel like that you think that Lottie is intentionally doing some of this fucky shit. Do you think that's on the table?
It's possible. I think it's possible. Yeah. I don't want to rule anything out about her because I don't feel like we have enough information quite yet.
It's really hard for me to square that with like her demeanor inside the therapist office and like when she sees like her visions coming back and whatnot. But like you're right. It's possible.
The fact that she's monitoring Nat, like I mean, well, she might not be monitoring. She might just had a vision, right? Like,
true.
There's stuff around the edges of Lottie's behavior that strikes me as dangerous, harmful to people potentially.
Okay.
And that is where I go, I don't know if she's altruistic or if she knows that she's created a cult here and she's exploiting that. It's hard to tell. So
all right, I can get with that.
We'll see. All right, Misty asks about the purple people at the farmer's market and they're not sure. No, sorry, they're not there because obviously Nat and Lisa were supposed to be going to the farmer's market, but they took a detour. And she asks where their compound is. She gets that info, but Walter thinks it's a good idea to wait until the morning to go out there. And Misty agrees with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was a little confused by this. Did somebody else come and set up their booth, or because they weren't there, somebody took their booth?
No, this is the booth
space.
that's right next door to the empty booth, which I'm surprised they didn't show as an establishing shot. But like, yeah, that's what you're like. And she knows because like, yeah, the cult usually sets up shop again. Yeah, next door. But
yeah. Well, that answers that.
And I don't know, like, it seems like, yeah, Misty wants to follow up right now because she knows her friend's been kidnapped, and Walter's like, let's just stay. But, you know, that also seems pretty reasonable. You know, if this is a malevolent cult, do you want to storm at 2 people in the middle of the night, or do you want to show up in broad daylight? You know, like, yeah.
And then we go to 1996 again. Nat busts into the cabin and says she found a moose frozen in the lake. Mari thinks everyone helping to gather it would violate the contest rules, but everyone tells her to fuck off because it's food. Thank goodness. Mari and Aquila wonder if it's... she just wants Lottie to be right.
Yeah, well, if you know what, that's the great thing about supernatural
and...
forces. You don't have to like hope you're right. Like if you're right, then they'll take care of it, you know?
Anyway, yeah, so Mari and Aquila wonder if Lottie's okay, and they'll go out and look for her. I can't remember if that's explicit in this episode.
No, I do think this episode was a little tightly like I do think an establishing shot at the farmer's market. So like some of these feel like, ooh, they were this needed to be 2 or 3 minutes longer maybe, but
yep, just a couple of little shots here and there.
Yeah, so some things missing.
And Lottie finds the plane that exploded when Laura Lee went for help, including the bear and the necklace, and it starts to get really weird from there. She opens a hatch in it and climbs down, finds herself in a shopping mall, and she sees the other Yellowjackets chowing down the food court. And then she sits down to eat, but her teammates tell her that she needs to get warm or she's going to die, and then she comes to in a snow-covered clearing.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that Laura Lee, who had been kind to her and had helped her, was seen as this beneficent character. That Nat, who, you know, Lottie sees as maybe in opposition to her, was making these catty comments about, you know, not having the money never stopped you from getting something before. Which is that a new implication that Lottie had shoplifted a bunch before?
I don't recall hearing that
in her troubled youth. But I thought that was kind of interesting. I had such a whiplash of emotions. Like when she found the plane, I'm like, fuck, Jim's right. There's some kind of time loop. What the fuck? And then when the latch opened, I'm like, oh my God, it's the worst of the lost shit happening.
Desmond pops out, hey, brother.
Yeah. and then when we got to I started relaxing when we got to the mall. I'm like, okay, clearly this is not happening. This is a delusion that's like, okay, this is making a lot more sense. But
totally.
Yeah, she narrowly avoids. Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like Laura Lee saving her doesn't do shit. I was curious about what you thought about that because yeah. Why?
I mean, this is easily explained as just a subconscious thing that's happening in her brain, right? Like she sees Laura Lee there telling her that she's freezing to death, but it's not really Laura Lee. It's not even a vision. It's just her own brain telling her you're dying. So get to safety.
But narratively, what purpose did that serve? Because she doesn't save herself, so she could just be deep in the delusion, freezing to death, and her friends come to carry her back in the cabin. But I guess it definitively says it's like, as if that had happened, maybe we would wonder like, well, maybe she did, you know, there's some reality. There is a time vortex or something. But since we saw her like come to and they found her at the like it was identified when we find out later. It's like, yeah, we found her at the old clearing where the hunter kept his plane. So we know none of that was real. So I guess there's utility there.
Yeah, definitely. There's utility. I'm trying to parse what it means to Lottie, because like it's this person who's dead who I don't think she was really involved in Laura Lee's death, right? I don't think she was like encouraging Laura Lee to go out there and do it. That was just something Laura Lee wanted to do. I don't think she hexed the bear
or anything like that. No, I think she really was attached to Laura Lee.
Yeah, so it's somebody that she thought fondly of, was a teammate, and is warning her that she's about to die here. while the rest of the team just kind of laughs, right? Like they're not really helping her in this moment. At least I don't remember them. It was more Laura Lee.
Yeah, and Nat in particular was the one I think that was being scornful. Or maybe Van is the one that said that about you never stop you from taking something that didn't belong to you before. I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe she saw like Laura Lee's spiritual connection and really like latched on to that. So now she's seeing her as like some kind of spiritual protector here.
Was Laura Lee behind a little bit of Lottie's spiritual awakening too?
I thought so, yeah.
Okay, I did too.
Did she baptize her?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then in the water she sees like the sunlight, but then it turns all dark and it's terrible.
Yeah, and I also like I noticed that in her altar she has like a cross as amongst all the other artifacts and candles and stuff. So like there is some kind of like Christian bent to the proto cult that's happening. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that Laura Lee could be a very formative figure in this whole thing, even in death.
Yeah, it could just be it's trying to tell us Lottie believes she's guided by God here, with Laura Lee as that stand-in. But I don't know. We'll see. I really love the version of the theme song they're playing here. It's got like this choir. It starts out real low key and only kind of barely has the melody of the song, and then music, it builds and builds.
So good. And like right when they start chipping the moose out of the water, this insane choral chanting and the high pitched and like just crazy tonality that they're doing with this. Yeah, it like raised the hair in the back of my neck. It's very, very good.
For sure. Yeah, let's talk about that. The team digs the moose out of the ice, but it sinks into the depths of the lake, and Nat gets a face full of icy water.
I was worried one of them going to get pulled in.
Me too, man. First of all, I was worried that, well, I mean, exactly what happened would happen is there's no way you're dragging this fucking moose out of this lake. At least not at the angle, not with the hole you've made.
Yeah, they should have really thought things through a bit more. Yeah. Because you only get one chance at this, and these things weigh like 1,000 pounds, and it's going to not be that heavy in the water, but woo. The
more you drag on to shore here, the less easy it's going to get to drag the rest of it.
Yeah. But what if, I mean, it's a tantalizing find, because essentially it's a deep frozen moose.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if they could, it's probably fresh, right? Like, at least as fresh as the average teenager that's been frozen for a couple weeks.
Sure, yeah. Let me ask you this. What does it mean for Nat? Because Nat, if you recall, is the one who like saw this moose first, and it was unclear if it was a real moose or if it was a figment of her imagination. It charged her in the plane. She couldn't kill it, and it ends up here just frozen in the lake. How does that happen? How does that happen overnight like this? I get the impression that this is not very long after she saw this moose the first time. It was alive and well.
I don't know what evidence we have of that, though. Like, it could easily be a week or two.
Okay. But I don't think that lake has just frozen over. It doesn't feel like the lake has just frozen over to me, but maybe.
So I think that like the idea is like this is a 1,000-pound moose and the lake had froze, because it was early winter, still early winter, like we're in the dead of winter now, and that you have a 1,000-pound moose crossing like thin ice, and it just fell through in that one spot, and then its horns kept it from sinking all the way, and it froze and died. And then it refroze more solids. I think that's what you're. But also, they're playing around with this idea of unusual warm pockets around the land. Mm-hmm. So
with the mossy trees,
yeah, maybe there's like a warm spot in where there's natural gas out gassing or something. I don't know. That's one idea that could thin the ice a bit.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I just read something a couple weeks ago about this. There's this natural. I can't remember where it is. Maybe it's someplace in Iceland where there's this lake that gets these weird circular holes that you can see from like aerial, and like for a long time people didn't know like what caused them and all that, but like scientists found that like it's due to like like a warm thermal vent in the lake that has this upwelling and like it thaws and then refreezes and thaws and refreezes and it makes those kind of. I wonder if that's something that they're hinting to some kind of natural phenomenon like that could do so. But like I said, like also it's a big moose. It just could step on not quite thawed ice and fall through.
And they have the skinny little feet. That's perfect. That's prime ice breaking.
True.
Leg there.
1,000 pounds on 4 ice picks, just going, concentrating that pressure.
All right, let's get back to the current day. Nat talks Lisa through the argument she just had with her mom. And by the end of the conversation, neither of themselves want to kill themselves today. Themselves. And Nat doesn't want to drink. She pushes away a shot of whiskey or something here.
It's a big 12-step motto, just one day at a time.
Sure.
I thought that's interesting that her not wanting to kill herself is intrinsically tied into not using as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, Misty and Walter book separate rooms at the local B&B. We get a split screen of them being overly paranoid as they investigate their accommodations and get ready for bed.
The skincare routine.
I love this detail.
They cut over to Walter and he's got that full face gold gel mask on. It's like because Misty's got these insane half moon things. It's already kind of crazy, and then he's just like.
But how do you look like Elijah Wood at Elijah Wood's age if you're not doing the full gold face mask every night?
It's true.
Right?
It's true. He's keeping his boyish looks for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my God, he looked like Buffalo Bill or something in that mask, dude. It is the song "The Angst in Their Pants," man, that was playing during the whole thing as they're doing all their black light and checking for bugs and going to sleep to their favorite true crime podcast. It's just really cute.
I thought they would be true crime podcasts. They're actually animal sounds. Like she's got birds and he's got cats.
Oh, really? Oh, how did you just zoom in and find that out?
No, there's a close up of it. It blew my mind. I went back and I watched this particular scene again because I'm like, which true crime podcast are they listening to?
Okay.
And it turns out they're not. They're
wow.
Yeah, they show them playing the thing.
That's true because they take their true crime podcast too serious to go to sleep to it.
I assume. Yeah.
Yeah.
They might miss a detail.
Right. And that's the detail to kill him. It's the detail that allowed a killer to kill him.
A couple of details here. Do you know who John Lang is? The pseudonym of Walter?
Is he a character from the Magus?
No. It's actually the pseudonym of Michael Crichton, apparently. He wrote some books under this name.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
And then Lady Malawan, which is the name that Misty chooses here, is Agatha Christie's inherited title upon her second marriage to Max Malawan.
Get the fuck out. So they're both essentially these, I don't know if you call Crichton a mystery writer, but he's not a mystery writer, puzzle box writer. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
nice.
So a couple references to authors there.
Nice pull.
And then Jeff and Shauna talk about their day. Jeff admits to not being fully over the affair. Shauna tells, well, I told Callie everything. Jeff's horrified that their daughter is now an accomplice. And Callie comes in and admits her own secret and says, I want to help cook. Family united over shared secrets, A.Ron. It's a story as old as time, but can we trust it? Do you think that Callie is being played straight here?
What do you mean by that?
Could Callie be telling her parents that she's on board, but still wants to bust them?
I think it's more likely that the 16-year-old probably feels like super adult and her parent
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting, cause I'm on Jeff's side. You've made your daughter an accomplice. What the fuck is wrong with you? But also there's this idea that you should protect children from things. But when things are real, you gotta, what did we talk about this in The Last of Us, when you had Henry and Sam and Henry was telling him some tough truths about the danger they were in and who had died. And do you tell, what do you tell kids, And it's like, I think
And
you try
when
to
do you tell them?
yeah, you try to shield them as much as possible. But like, if you're living in a war-torn country and like the bombs are falling, at some point you got to talk about that, you know, so that they can stay safe and do all that. And like, I guess my thing with Jeff is like, yeah, you should protect your children, but like not committing crimes, not doing felonies is a good, but like if you're going to be a family that does crimes, probably the kids should know about it at some point to protect themselves and you, right? So it's like,
and the kids will know about it too, right? Like she
eventually,
already
unless
knows
they're
about
idiots.
it. She's getting
Yeah.
gaslighted by her family.
yes.
Is that the way to go?
Nah. But like I was kind of joking, but I'm also kind of serious about like you can see the cult of femininity closing and excluding the male, and then like I said, joyfully chopping a phallic thing right in front of him.
Sure.
Yeah. But I also like, yeah, just it's unbelievable for Jeff to but I guess that's the thing. It's like, Jeff, you were already here, you just didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
If you know, like,
you were trying to deny the situation as it exists.
the second you fucked up and didn't burn that license plate thoroughly, your last chance to hop off the crime family train and start living respectable lives, and all this blows over, that's over. It's done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Jay. I don't know if Callie will clam up and stop telling him things. Will she like spill more beans to this stranger? Who knows?
Not me.
Let's go back to 96 again. Nat warms up in a bath, and when a near frozen Lottie is dragged back to the cabin by Mari and Aquila, Nat gives up her bath so the Lottie can warm up, and then Nat and Lottie reconcile over their shared failures.
In the future timeline, does Lottie have her toes? Because those things look bad, man. Those things look real. I'm not sure if they were black, but they were deep purple.
Yeah. I feel like when you are at risk of dying from exposure, that your limbs don't fare particularly well.
Yeah.
Those are usually the first things to go because your body's, constricting its blood flow to the major organs and the important bits. So you're probably right. Maybe she's missing some toes.
She's got prosthetic toes. Have we ever seen her in an open toe shoe?
Not that I recall.
We're gonna have to follow up on this, but I like that them making peace over the fact that they both essentially scored 0 in the religion faith off.
And how it's gonna be disrupted here by Mari in a second when she's like, "Oh, the hobbies, babe."
Right.
Lottie called this. Lottie's our leader again. Like, come on, we had just come to some understanding here.
And it was all through the lens of good game. Like it's like a sportsmanship, and it was a sweet scene. But you're right, Mary's gonna fucking throw a brick through this stained glass window of peace.
All right, back to the current day again. Lottie's trying to force her visions away, but a queen with no eyes card keeps coming up, keeps intruding. Lottie takes a knife out to the woods and makes a blood offering to the bear heart altar, I think, asking it to just be enough.
Wants this blood sacrifice to be enough, yeah. Yeah, she's trying to take, going through her affirmation deck and thinking about all these positive feelings about herself, and this red queen with the X'd out eyes.
She probably didn't get her medication from this substitute therapist,
I'm guessing. Yeah.
If she's resorting to all these other things, like...
Well, I mean, it's good. Yeah, it's good mental health anyway, but yeah.
Sure. But she feels desperate in these scenes.
It does seem like it, yeah.
All right, back to the past again.
And this also ties back. Don't forget about the queens emerging and stinging each other. Like I did this multiple queen theory, I think. Well, it's not a theory. It's
and
the
text. Dark one, the one with no eyes, right? I mean, these eyes are marked out of this queen. I don't know how those connect because they're, Lottie's visions versus Thais's.
Thais's got red eyes. We know that. She's the red queen.
Yeah.
I got feedback on that says that was apparently is an unintended consequence of certain lighting, and because they're dying a lot, they're using contacts on a lot of the women's eyes to make their younger selves match their young selves. So I guess that's just a unfortunate combination. But god damn, her eyes look super red, especially when she's being dark Thai. So I don't know. Producers say a lot of things, I think.
All right, 96, Van and Thais are out looking for the symbol tree. They find a tree with melted snow at the base. Taissa hears something and takes off running after it. They catch up and find out, well, they're surprised by what it is, who it is. We know it's Javi. Everyone knows it's Javi in this scene, right? Here's the thing. Here's another, like, missed opportunity for a perfectly reasonable shot here. You show the close-up of Javi. You have the big reveal. This is a huge reveal. And they so underplay it. And I think just to get the effect of the next scene, but the effect of the next scene is not strong enough for me to say, we don't want a close-up here. We don't want to reveal that this is Javi in this scene. I
mean, I knew it was Javi as soon as they said, oh my God, there's someone out there. Who could it be? Like, so maybe I didn't read as like a real...
Yeah, something about the way that they reveal Javi is like way understated to me. It needed to be given more fanfare, and it was just not.
So what are they suggesting with these bare patches of snow? Are they like my theory was that this is like someone leaning up against a tree, spending the night, but like this looked like... It
might be. I mean, they find Javi right when they find this tree, right? So if it's his ass warming these trees...
But it felt like very, like, it's like, yeah, like it's a lot wet. And like, it looks like there's actually warmth coming up from the ground. And I was trying to think, it's like, well, is they trying to suggest hot spots? Or I am very curious to see when Javi starts talking and like what he has to say, because you're right. Hard to believe a teenager without adequate clothing could survive in these winter conditions for at least weeks. Like, let's say that Doom's Coming happened around Thanksgiving weekend. And we've been through several weeks of winter. It's hard to believe he'd survive.
Oh, I mean, look at how the cold was affecting Lottie. Lottie nearly died, as bundled up as they could possibly make her. She almost died in that cold. Javi is not wearing the cold weather gear. Nope. Javi's just out there in what he was wearing at Doom Coming, I guess. Yeah, there's no way he should have survived that. So what's his story?
Can't wait to find out. I hope they don't make him just be a mute the entire season because of trauma. I mean, it's something that can happen, but like, boy, it'd be annoying. Boy, it'll be annoying.
All right, current day again. Nat watches Lisa show off her goldfish to the other cultists, and she eyes these keys like she's going to do something naughty with them.
Yep, there's keys. The doors are all open doors, though. Maybe she's going to come back in dark at night, because it looked like those are Lottie's offices, personal quarters.
Yeah, could be. Then we go back to 96. The girls bring Javi back to the cabin. Travis is reunited with his brother. Mari claims that Lottie was right. Javi was alive. And then Van says Taissa knew where he was, and that it's connected to everything.
It's such a great evolution, because right before this event, you had essentially faith versus rationality. Rationality slinks off in the form of Nat feeling guilty, and then it's just two irrationalities duking it out for supremacy. It's not like, well, are we sure? It's like, we're sure something's happening, but which of our priestesses is the right one?
Totally. Yeah. And the other weird thing in here is this sense I get from Javi that something has changed in his brother. And what is it? You know, he gives him this hug, but then he backs off and he gives him this weird look.
You talking about Travis is seeing something's changed in Javi?
No, the other way around.
The Javi see something's changed in Travis?
I saw a worried look on Javi's face.
I saw like a catatonic look on Javi's face. I did not see.
Okay, maybe I interpreted it as worried.
I mean, you might be right, man. I don't know. I thought it was interesting how conflicted Lottie seems in all this. Like, now that there's a two-way contest between High Priestess, I still think she doesn't know that she's kind of like having a crisis of faith, right? As Taissa seems like maybe she's has a chance to take pole position here as the finder of Javi, but I don't know. Yeah,
I'm curious to see. I mean, Mari's pretty obviously pressing the issue of like Lottie is our protector here.
Yeah,
she doesn't look like she's about to drop that anytime soon. And I don't think Taissa wants the title that they're trying to give her. That Van's trying to give her. So I don't know. It's really at this point like a contest between the will of Van versus the will of Mari. Because neither of the would-be spiritual leaders want the role. or feel confident in the role, seemingly.
Yeah.
Anyway, we go back to the current day for the final scene where Thais has dropped off in a small town, goes into a video store where she finds Van. The adult Van, finally introduced 4 episodes in. We all knew it was going to happen, and here she is.
Another great piece of casting. That looks like a plausible grown-up Van.
Right, all the way down to owner of a video store. Like, this is how I picture Van living her life. While You Were Streaming is such a great title, a great name for a video store also.
Yeah. And it's also like there's a place for physical media. You know, we've talked about how like there's some movies and television shows. The one that comes up the mind is Christian Slater's Pump Up the Volume. You can't watch that online. There's no way to stream that because of some conflict with the streaming rights, and there's several movies like that. I think it's something with another one. A weird was like Spice World, a Spice Girls movie.
Okay,
can't fucking watch that any streaming service, or at least you couldn't 6 months ago. So like I think it's interesting that there is like these are the last refuge of you know, in days of rights conflicts, like DVDs, VHS, Blu-rays are the only place you can get some of this stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what she wants with Van. I don't know if sleep Thaisa or waking Thaisa took her here. Seems like she's awake right now, but clearly half this journey was done while she was asleep. So what's the purpose of it? Why connect with Van right now?
I'll have to find out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. We do have feedback to consider, but my God, somehow we managed to go an hour 45 just talking about the episode ourselves. So we are going to have to schedule an emergency feedback slot later this week. I think we're going to record it tomorrow. It should be out Wednesday at the latest, I'd imagine. But yeah, if you want to get in on that, you still probably have, if you get right on it, you can. Yellowjackets at baldmove.com. If you want to find out what else we're doing, all the Picard, all the movie stuff. We just got done seeing Renfield, which I had a lot of fun with last week at the movies. You want to follow our Twitter, twitter.com/baldmoves. Got all of our releases and our upcoming events. And if you'd like to support us, if you'd like to keep our bits flowing, it's support.baldmove.com. I was trying to come up with a blood sacrifice, like let this be enough. Let this $5 membership be enough, but I couldn't work it into. But you do get, unlike the uncertain supernatural benefits of joining Lottie's cult, you do get tangible things like ad-free feeds and tons of bonus content by joining ours. So, and you can leave at any time. We don't even specify it in the terms of the support contract. So, like, we're definitely not a cult.
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
You can leave for as many days as you want.
Yeah. As many days as you want, you can leave. Yellowjackets at baldmove.com. We'll see you later this week for feedback and next week for an all-new episode of Yellowjackets. Until then, I'm your host, A.Ron.
And I'm Jim.
Buzz.